I don't see anybody else, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Let's get underway. I know people have a tight schedule today. First thing is the approval of the minutes for February 1st. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Nat Lowell and Joe
Aye.
Sligo. Okay,
aye.
any discussion?
Oh, sorry.
Can I get a vote?
Salido,
Lowell,
yes.
aye.
In your eye.
Mark
Reese, aye.
and Cahill, aye. Minutes have been approved. Before we get into the management report, I understand one of us have a conflict later on in the meeting, and we'd like to rearrange the agenda. I think it was Rob.
That's correct. Unfortunately, I have to leave around 9:45. And I was wondering if it might be possible to talk about the RFP for the freight transportation sooner in the agenda rather than later. That way I could participate in that, given that some of the other elements are fairly straightforward. And so that would be my proposal.
Gentlemen, anyone have a problem if we move that agenda item to the top?
Nope, all good.
All right. Mark, do you want to
Okay.
make that happen?
Yeah, we're going to bring Steve Sayers over. He's going to be going through the RFP. And while we're doing that, to give you guys a heads up who's in the room with myself, we have Sean Driscoll, Terrence Keneally, our general counsel, Martha Munson, director of marine operations, Joe Levesque, project manager, Janice Kennefick, director of human resources, Angela Sampson, our SQMS lead, Angela Campbell, reservations manager, and Allison Fletcher, shoreside operations. All yours, Steve.
Good morning,
Morning,
everybody.
Steve.
Good
Hey,
morning.
Steve.
How are you?
Hey,
Good.
Steve.
Hi. Well, it's amazing to see Matt Lowell after all these years and Rob again.
How's retirement?
I recommend it to everybody. I do. It's terrific.
I recommend it, but it ain't gonna happen.
Well, I've been asked today to go over the request for proposals that we have prepared, the draft we prepared for a freight service for the island of Martha's Vineyard from an off-Cape port. And if you remember last fall, when the board approved the 2022 Martha's Vineyard summer and fall operating schedules, they also voted for us to issue an RFP for this freight service, to run it by the Long Range Vineyard Transportation Task Force, which we did last month, as well as support council before coming back to the board. The draft RFP you see in front of you, which is 74 pages long, a little bit longer than the initial draft, is consistent with the feasibility study that the staff prepared back in April of 2016. The most important thing is that under this RFP, there would be no financial risk to the Steamship Authority in providing the freight service from an off-Cape port. Simply put, the Steamship Authority does not have the resources to provide that additional route. We don't have the vessels. Our monetary financial situation is already maxed out, and our financial stability is very important to the island. And we don't want to compromise that financial stability at all and jeopardize the main service route from Woods Hole. Accordingly, all the financial risk for this endeavor would be put on a private operator, although the Steamship Authority would assist it and cooperate with it if it needed to obtain any grants in order to provide the service, any permits that it would need to provide the service. In 2017, our consultant, Craig Johnson from, I think, Flagship Management, did advise us that there would be private operators who are willing to provide the service at a financial risk, that they could make a profit at it and they would be good at it. So that is the premise for the entire RFP. Nevertheless, we would, I don't know whether I can, I don't think there's any need to share a screen at this point. We would, consistent with our feasibility study, allow the operator to use our Vineyard Haven terminal facilities in order to dock the boat that they use at least twice a day, subject to our own operational needs. Our schedules would have priority. And we would also allow the private operator to use the reservation system that we have, because one of the biggest aspects of this is coordination with our own schedules. We did this back in 2000 and 2001 when we had the pilot project 22 years ago. We allowed that private operator to make reservations under our system because the turnaround time on the island is problematic for a vessel that goes back and forth to New Bedford. When a truck arrives on the vineyard, it has to get to its island destinations, drop off its goods, and get back to the terminal. By that time, the boat's already left, and then it's several hours before the boat gets back from New Bedford to the island. Therefore, we would anticipate that freight shippers would use the New Bedford service to go one way on their trip and use our service through Woods Hole to come back in the other direction. That would be more efficient for the freight shippers and would be an element of success for the entire operation. But importantly, the private operator would be responsible for its own terminal facility on the mainland, which cannot be located on Cape Cod. We want the service to be primarily a freight service. We put that into the RFP. If it's not exclusively a freight service, we would like the proponent to give priority to freight customers before others. And we think that's important from the Woods Hole and Falmouth standpoint to get as many freight trucks off their roads as possible. We also want the service to be able to carry hazardous cargo, because that's one of the early customers we have in Woods Hole, and to get those off of the Woods Hole Road. And they almost all go through close to New Bedford anyway. After those restrictions or parameters, the touchstone word for me in this whole process is flexibility. We anticipate that when we issue the RFP, we will get a number of proponents with questions and concerns about how this RFP, how our vision of the service will fit within their own operational model. And we expect to have discussions with potential proponents to try to address their concerns, amend the RFP as appropriate in order to make it to cast as wide a net as possible. For that reason, we have put the deadline for responses to the RFP as late as August 2nd. And we believe August 2nd, that's around 4 months. That's enough to get it advertised in all the trade journals, have that dialogue with whoever is going to be submitting proposals, and to amend the RFP appropriately and with sufficient time for all proponents to know what changes we're making. After that, After that, we are giving the board almost a 2-month period in order to evaluate the proposals. And from August 2nd until the end of September, we expect the staff to be doing its due diligence in looking at the proposals, to look at the proposed provisions that the operators are going to have for the license agreement, and to discuss what negotiations will be necessary in order to make it acceptable to the Steamship Authority. After all of that, the board will be evaluate the proposals. They can ask whomever they want to assist them. We hope that they will ask the staff and the Port Council to do so. We expect them to do that, but it's up to them. And they will be evaluating the proposals on a number of categories. And I will share my screen at this point. Because there are a number of categories that they will be evaluating the proposals, and those are pages 65 through 74 of the draft RFP you have. The proponent's qualifications, the terminal facilities to be used by the operator on North Vineyard, the mainland terminal facilities to be used, the vessels to be used, and as a result of conversations with Ed DeWitt, who is chair of the Falmouth Transportation Committee, although he submitted these privately, his comments privately. We'll also be evaluating them on greenhouse gas emission reductions, the operational model for the service, commencement of the services, how soon they can be started, the seasonal period for the services, actually the longer period that the service can be provided each year, the better, frequency and timing of trips, the number of years committed to the license agreement, because we do want this operator to become an integral part of the transportation network of Martha's Vineyard. And the longer that that person is committed, the more likely it will be to become a reliable component of this network. Limitations on priority given to the carriage of freight vehicles, priority given to certain freight shippers on the early morning trips. This is both the hazardous cargo coming over early in the morning and also trash going back off the island early in the morning. We envision that would be on the return trip. This has been an issue in the past with the city of New Bedford, who understandably does not want trash to be unloaded in its downtown area. And so we have put that limitation in the RFP that it's only advantageous to us if the trash can be taken off early in the morning at a port that is not located south of the Fairhaven Bridge in New Bedford. In November, we had Justin Paulson, who's the new executive director of the New Bedford Port Authority, advise us that as far as the city of New Bedford is concerned, it is acceptable for trash to come and be taken off north of that Fairhaven Bridge. So the proponent's use of our reservation system, the availability of drive-on, drive-off services, we believe that's also an important part of making this service successful. We have limited space at Vineyard Haven Terminal. So if they are going to provide drive-on, drive-off services, they have to show us how they're going to do it without having the truck stay there for any period of time. The limitations on the proponent's fare for the services. The proponent will be able to establish its own fares. This is going to be in many ways a free and open competition between us and the proponent. But we would like to know, and I think the public would like to know, if they are going to limit those fares in any way and how they would do that to make certain that they don't get people to start relying on them and then simply jack up the fares that they charge. And the last one is the proposed license agreement revisions without proposed compensation, what the proponent is wants us to agree to in the license agreement we are proposing. There are some provisions that I would believe no public agency should be able to agree to. This happened before when we did the RFP for the management consultants. We had one proponent require that we not disclose the fee that we were paying them or any financial arrangements or contractual agreements that we had. And obviously that was against public policy. So hopefully all of that will come to fruition and we will be able to, the board will evaluate them all, rate each one of these from A through P, either not advantageous, advantageous, or highly advantageous. And then after that, it's a balancing act filled with public policy considerations that is appropriately within the board's jurisdiction to decide which of the proposals it should accept and under what conditions, or even potentially, because it is theoretically possible, not to accept any of the proposals. But hopefully that won't happen. That they will be able to identify a proponent. Often it does come out and everyone does agree in these situations. This is the process that leads to that result. And that they will be able to also agree on what revisions to the proposals should be negotiated before an award, which will be left to the staff to carry out. And then hopefully the license agreement will be awarded by the end of October. I'm willing to take any questions. We did present the previous draft task force last month. John Cahill had a number of suggestions, which I've incorporated into the revised draft, probably not as explicitly as he would have liked. He talked about a partnership. I worry about the liability aspects of representing it as a partnership. So I've just talked about cooperation and support in terms of getting grants and making them an integral part of the transportation network. Also, Ed DeWitt talked about the greenhouse gas emissions reductions and also making it more flexible so that proponents with possibly a containerized service could submit a proposal and not have to have a ferry as we've envisioned. And we've made some other changes to that.
Thanks, Steve. It's a great job. Let's just open it up to an open discussion, you know. Anybody want to jump in first?
Like Joe's got his hand up.
Joe, go
No,
ahead.
I just had my hand on my head,
Okay.
trying to think of something here.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things. Thanks, John, and thanks, Steve, for that. One of the things that I think we want to be sure is that we attract good competition. In other words, we want bidders. And some of the things you've said, I think, are encouraging about trying to do that. But I wonder if we're doing enough or if we couldn't do more. And maybe just a clarifying question to help me before I sort of probe a little further on that idea. Are we going to put this out for bid, get bids, and then have this process of potentially amending the RFP? Or is there some process prior to the first bid that would enable feedback and amendment of the RFP?
It's the latter, and I don't mean to be to correct you too much, but these are not bids. These are proposals, and legally, that's a very important distinction because for a bid, generally you have to take the lowest bid if it's a cost, or the highest bid if it's a
Sure, I understand the distinction. Yeah, wrong choice of word.
Okay, what we envision is just issuing the RFP next month, hopefully. We don't have the deadline for proposals until August 2nd. Between now and then, we will be advertising it, soliciting it around, and talking with potential proponents to see how the RFP can be amended before proposals are submitted to make it more conducive for proponents' proposals. So the answer to your question is we're going to do the latter. We're going to talk to these people up front, see what makes it more attractive to them. How can we change it beforehand? We can always amend the RFP. We've amended RFPs before the deadlines for submission of proposals many times. And we would do that appropriately in order to attract as many people as possible. We also are looking at who submitted proposals back in 1999 for that original pilot project. We'll see if they're still in business. We'll submit it to them. We'll give it to Craig Johnson again. He has a lot of connections in the market, and also all the trade publications.
Okay, that's encouraging. I mean, I've seen a process similar to this done somewhat differently, where you have a kind of a RFI process first, where you have a bunch of people that are interested to come and you get their input to help to frame the RFP. This RFP is pretty well baked, and so it'll be in the form of unframing a little bit. You know, it's pretty far along, and while I think there's a lot of interesting attributes to it, it is a pretty intimidating RFP with a lot of restrictions that might not be as attractive as if we had the input from them in advance. That's not to say that your process of amending the RFP through this first month or so might not lead to some bidders, but I guess I go back to my main premise, which is we really want to attract interest in this. And you really want to cast a wide net, and you want to do it so the document needs to feel that way, and the process.
Correct.
Another question I have is with respect to the thought that the management has had about the impact on the need for the ships that we have if this was to be successful. In other words, if we have a freight provider coming from New Bedford, do we still need as many ships that carry freight from Woods Hole? Or is that a part of the thinking, or is that sort of a down the road kind of a concept, or what's the thinking?
I think Mark, or unfortunately, Bob is not here today, but to me, that's part of the thinking down the road. If you look at what the proponents come in with, and they're proposing only to provide 2 trips a day from New Bedford, that probably will not reduce the number of boats that we need in order to provide service. What it would do, though, might give us the ability to eliminate some trips, maybe some manning issues. Instead of a triple crew, a double crew for some of them. It also will allow us potentially to increase the maintenance periods, the overall periods for the boats that we have. It's not going to reduce the number of boats we need. And we still have a need. When I left, we were talking about either getting a major refurbishment or a new vessel every 5 years or so. So that is a substantial capital commitment that we're going to have to make regardless of what this proponent comes in with.
Is there room in the RFP for a proponent to offer an option?
Yes, actually, that's explicit there. They can come in. We talk about 5 years is advantageous to us. They can come in and submit a term of 5 years with an option on their part.
That's not what I meant in terms of time. I meant in terms of solution.
Oh, that's the whole purpose for the discussion with the proponents before the proposals are submitted. That what we want is for the RFP to be broad enough that if they come in with a solution that they think is going to work, that they are responsive to the RFP and that we will consider it. And they can give us that proposed solution early on in the process before proposals are submitted, or they can wait and surprise us after at the deadline. And everyone may say that's the best thing since sliced bread or the best thing since whatever, the electric engines. Yes.
Okay. I guess I must admit 71 pages. I didn't quite get through every page. I didn't see where it specifically said that in addition to being responsive to the requirements of the RFP, we would also entertain options. In other words, and if you're a competitor, you probably aren't going to show your options at the bidders conference or in advance to your competition. And what would we be explicit about being interested in listening to options in addition to being responsive to the RFP?
All right, we can make that an explicit statement in the RFP. That's an excellent idea. It's meant to be there. The RFP is meant to be broad enough so that they have that. But the idea is that we can express that attitude in the RFP. That's a very good idea.
Is there a notional idea of when the service might start? In other words, is this like, are we thinking, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now? What's kind of the conception of when the provider might actually be able to start?
Well, that's an evaluation criterion. I've forgotten which one. We would consider it to be highly advantageous if the service could start prior to June 1st of next year. And it's theoretically possible because you have Ralph Packer with facilities that could be used that way. Or advantageous if it would start before June 1st of 2024. If it can't start by June 1st, 2024, we just would consider that to be not advantageous. We don't disqualify anyone from not being able to start the service that soon, because the North Terminal 2 project in the city of New Bedford has a long lead time. They are going to be constructing the North Terminal 2 project just with the bulkhead without any slips. That may take a year or so, and then another year if a successful proponent wants to use that facility in order to get the permits and do the construction to construct a slip. So it's just one criterion, and if someone wants to start it immediately, that's better on that evaluation criterion, but no one is disqualified if it's going to take a few years and it's going to be a better service.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. One last question. I apologize for taking the floor here, but
Oh, great.
Since as long as I have it.
Good call.
This is respect to period of performance. You made a comment about, we wouldn't want to get this a fully integrated operation and then have the provider pull the plug. I sort of see the alternative being more likely, which is they want a 10-year contract because they're going to make a bunch of investments that they have to recoup their costs. And, do we have a time horizon in mind about how long an agreement like this might be or how it would be structured so that they'd have the confidence that they could have a license that would last long enough for them to make money?
It's up to them how long they want to propose it. And this is where I'm looking at it optimistically, that it's better for the island to have a long-term partner in this as opposed to someone who just wants to come in for a few. No one would be interested in a few years. So we have put a 5-year threshold because we think where it's highly advantageous, but they can come in with 10, they can come in with 10 years, an option for another 10 years. They have to comply with the license agreement in order to maintain that license agreement. So if they do not perform, that license agreement can be terminated. But as long as they do perform what they've committed to perform, then they could have a long-term and successful arrangement with us.
Great. Last question, and that's about, or I guess it's a comment, sort of greenhouse gas criteria. I mean, we have our own fleet that isn't, overwhelmingly impressive with respect to greenhouse gas emissions. Are we going to hold them to a different standard, or are we going to hold them to our standard?
It's acceptable if they come in with our standard. We've said that that's acceptable.
Okay.
But if someone wants to come in and say, we're going to do all electric engines here, that's highly advantageous from anyone's point of view, frankly, even if we don't. I mean, if they propose to come in with all electric engines, fine. They come in and they propose with hybrid, diesel and electric engines where they can manage it. That is still advantageous, even though if they come in with all diesel, which we probably expect that they will, it's still acceptable. But we felt that should be, when Ed DeWitt brought that up, we agreed with him. We thought that should be a consideration that we take into account.
Okay, great. Thanks. Appreciate you letting me run with those questions, and appreciate the effort you put into this. It's a very exciting proposition. I just go back to my main point. We want to attract a lot of interest, and whatever we can do to do that is got value and will lead to a better outcome.
We'll do our
Thanks,
best.
Rob. That's great.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions?
Yeah, I just have a technical question. It was mentioned earlier that ports from Cape Cod would not be allowed to participate in this. I just want to, I think it's a part of the Enabling Act that the town of Fairhaven is also excluded from consideration of any type of activity such as proposed in this RFP. So I just would like that to be explicitly put into the RFP. It's not only ports of Cape Cod, but also the Fairhaven side of the New Bedford Fairhaven Harbor.
Good point. Thank you for raising that. That's why you're on the Port Council.
It's the only reason why I'm here. To make sure those trucks don't go down Green Street.
We will amend the RFP accordingly.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good morning, everyone. So, Steve, I know, Steve, you're pressing the repeat button from what year? 99, 2000. Same stuff comes up. So what about the DOT study that was just released? Sounded like my speech at Mashpee High School in 1998. Same
Well,
stuff.
Right. Actually, this isn't the same thing as 1999. In 1999, we took the financial hit ourselves. I think that RFP, we essentially chartered the boat, and we had to raise the freight tariffs for the vineyard by 10% in order to pay for that. We also did the fares the same amount from New Bedford as they were from Woods Hole, and we only recovered, I think, 15 to 20% of the cost in terms of revenues.
Yeah.
But Seabulk, which ran the service, made a lot of money that year on our dime. So there was more money to be made than simply the 15 to 20% of the cost of service that we recovered. And the occupancy capacity of the boat was probably around 60%. And there were some limitations we put on it initially because we wanted to get the freight trucks off of Woods Hole Road. So we wanted only large freight trucks there, which we aren't making that a requirement this time. And they can probably provide the services at less cost. So we think this is a better model than we put in 1999. And I realized that study that came down from Urban Harbors Institute indicates the emissions are greater for a service from Bedford than from Woods Hole. But that's why we do have the provision for hybrid engines or electric engines, which would reduce that. And also, emissions are not the only environmental consideration, particularly for those that are impacted very directly by the traffic in their port communities. And so you have to consider not only greenhouse gas emissions, but also traffic congestion, the length of the operating day, all of these things. And these are all considerations that have to be balanced with each other. We're trying to strike a balance here.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've been around a long time, Steve, and I've heard every possible argument to every possible issue that known to man, okay, with the steamship and every other issue. And bottom line is we're trying to take the Vineyard and make it into the Nantucket route for a part of the route. I mean, that's what we're doing. I heard drive on, drive off mentioned, and all kinds of bells went off in my head as like, that's the number one thing that the Vineyard doesn't have because they don't need that. Because of the frequency of trips, there's a driver in every truck. There's no such thing as Suntrans sending over the Stop and Shop trailers, or Cape Cod Express just sending trucks on the boat without a driver all day, like we have. And so kind of just want to roll back for everybody in this screen who's not been here and doesn't even remember what I'm going to say next. Okay, so 1998 was the last year of winter, summer freight boat service for Nantucket from Woods Hole. And what they used to do, and this is when the boats were just lengthened, they didn't widen them yet, so they carried 6 semis instead of 4. And they would leave at 5 a.m., go to Nantucket, which is another half an hour from Woods Hole compared to Hyannis, and they would sit at the dock and wait for all the trucks to come back to the boat, and the boat would go back to Woods Hole and get in around 1-ish, I believe, somewhere in that vicinity. And then that boat would switch crews and run the Vineyard route for a few trips that same day. But when that boat leaves from Woods Hole like that to go to Nantucket, there was always space on the back of it because there ain't nothing to put on it because everything's in Hyannis. Same with this end. The only vehicle that could go back on that boat, other than what came on it, was a vehicle with a driver that could go with the gas. So like, it just, this is a very, very complicated, confusing sort of, I don't want to say proposal, I would just say concept. If this was happening 50 years ago, it would be happening now, but it's complicated to plug in something like this in a modern era where we've already sort of flushed all this stuff out over time. When we moved the operation to Woods Hole and we moved Woods Hole to Hyannis for Nantucket permanently in 1985, it's hard to unravel that sweater and make some of the stitching go somewhere else. It's very hard, Steve, and I know you understand that, okay? when we start talking about hybrid and all that, we're trying to force technology to just appear on a piece of paper by somebody. It just, but we got to go through this process. I understand why we're doing it, but I just don't want to get the Steamship Authority entangled in something that has any negative impact on our finances. And we haven't even discussed what's going on right now in the world, which is going to cost us something. It ain't going to be free to drive boats, whether they're plugged in or diesel or both. Okay. So, I just get concerned when I hear all this stuff, because I know the obstacles are going to be pretty big. Okay. For someone to just whip up a plan to do something. The other thing, Steve, the reason I brought it up is what we used to do on the Nantucket route. It's the timing issue that you brought it up with the boat, the trucks leaving to go back to Woods Hole. See, that's the catch. Okay, Nantucket doesn't have that choice. So we're 26 miles, no matter what boat you're on. Okay, so when you come 22 miles one way and 7 the other, that's always going to be a catch-22. So I think that we should consider, as much as I don't even want to bring this up, is the holding situation. They hold a boat and not run more than one trip. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's going to end up being something with a mix in it. Because you can't come over to the vineyard like you do Nantucket for the whole day, and those trucks don't get back till 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, that just isn't gonna happen by volunteer. You'd have to force it. And I'm in Tiberio brought that up in a meeting. I'll never forget it. That's a picture of me with my hands over my face in the newspaper, when he brought up limiting the amount of vehicles that can go on a boat from Woods Hole. That was brought up to force the New Bedford service to work.
And we
So-
specifically are not doing that.
I understand.
are
I'm
not
just saying,
We're trying-
I'm rolling through the history of this. This isn't something that just popped up yesterday. This idea has been floating around for 23 years, 22 years still. So I just get really concerned with today's finances and how much this all costs and how we operate the bottom line of the steamship. And so, we've got a hell of a maintenance. We got a great maintenance facility over there, Steve. Provides a lot of work. We're expanding it, doing more work in Fairhaven. I mean, we've got a great operation over there, and it's getting better. And we've invested a lot of money. There's been a lot of grant money invested over there for that. And I think that that's something that needs to be mentioned as far as, the overall diversity of the steamship with that part of the southern Massachusetts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Real quick, Mr. Chairman, I got a text from Rich Salzberg of the Martha's Vineyard Times. He's making an audio recording of the meeting. Just wanted to state that for the record.
All right, thank you, Sean. Nat, could you just summarize for me your concerns just in a paragraph?
In a paragraph,
Yeah.
first of all, the first concern I have is the confusion of the RFP. And I know why we're doing it, but it's confusing for someone to just open that up and say, okay, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. It's hard because they don't understand the logistics of what we're, the geography. It's confusing. Okay.
That's one. What
So
are the
that's
others?
one.
Yeah.
The pricing, okay, the cost of your vehicles versus ours are 3 times different. That's because of the cost of the route.
Yeah.
So where's their pricing coming from? Is it going to come from our structure? Steve mentioned the ticket system, which was what we did before with, what was the name of that boat, Steve?
Seaball.
Yeah,
Seaball.
but there was Seaball. There you go. Yeah.
Savigi.
So I couldn't remember. So Can't believe I couldn't remember that. So anyway, you know, their pricing would have to reflect the distance, the cost.
Right.
Maybe they have less overhead because they don't have the same, you
Right.
know, whatever, the cost that we have baked in. I don't know. I can't give you the answer to that. But the other thing is, again, is what, first of all, there's mention of cars. Steve brought up, you know, passenger vehicles. Then you get into hazmat. Are we trying to get the hazmat over there? Are we trying to get mixed loads? It's that gets into a whole nother question, okay? Driver service
If I can
vehicle.
interrupt for a second, I think those are things that we could flush out during this process, though, right?
Yeah, and I'm
mean,
not
hazmat.
saying we can't. I'm just saying these questions are gonna come up as if it's like a brand new issue with people that have never talked about it before. So we're gonna have to be prepared to answer all that.
Correct.
Well, that's one of the questions I have for Steve. Has the Steamship Authority decided yet who's going to lead this initiative?
Who's going to lead it?
Yes. I
Well,
mean,
I
going
think-
back to, if I can to explain what I mean by that, going back to what Rob said, I might not use the right word, but we need to market this.
Correct.
And it's not something just put in the papers or put in the trade journals, but it's somebody who can actually say, hey, we're serious about this and we want to attract the best partners and let us explain to you this RFP. So I think it's important that we as a group understand who's going to take this and lead with it.
Right, we agree with you entirely. We've been focused on the RFP at this point.
Yep.
But Bob and I have talked, Bob has already talked with Craig Johnson about this, who has a lot of networking. We've talked about going to the previous people who provided proposals before. Peggy Nickerson will know where to advertise it. And we expect all of us, quite frankly, to be involved as a team in trying to reach out to these people, answer their questions, explain the geography, give them the resources they need, the documentation they need. And if necessary, if they don't respond quickly, then we postpone the deadline for the RFP, for the proposals, to make certain that people understand everything.
Got it.
That's concerns are legitimate ones. And it's all a balancing. We don't want to make the same mistakes we made before.
Yep.
It is 3 times the distance. Expense is part of the geography is part of the expense. There may be some savings in truck wear and gas for the customers. Who knows? And until we put it out there and receive proposals and see what people have in mind, at that point, that's when the real discussion is going to be among the board about all these public policy considerations that Nat is bringing.
Okay.
Gents, unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave. I really appreciate you moving this forward in the agenda. I think it was a really robust discussion and look forward to, supporting this. Thanks.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks,
Wow.
Rob.
That was quick.
Nat speaks with experience, logic, and all of his concerns are real concerns. And the question is, how can we structure this so that the Steamship Authority's financial condition is not negatively impacted? We think we've done that. The last time that was not the case. And so if this doesn't work out, if someone comes in and finds that they miscalculated, that they were too optimistic, it's not on our ticket, frankly. And that's the only way that we could, in good faith, go forward with this on behalf of the island of Martha's Vineyard.
I could just thank you, Steve. That was good for clarification. I heard earlier that the Falmouth Transportation Group was looking for some sort of container solution. Can you just flush that out?
I can
Well,
flush that.
What's that, Rob?
I can flush that one. if you
No.
want.
The idea is that a containerized operation is where you do freight consolidation, you put them in containers.
Yep.
And you bring the containers
I know
down.
what it is. I just,
And they think they think that's a source of freight for the vineyard that has not been utilized so far. I believe, and it's my personal opinion, that Cape Cod Express and FedEx now, UPS, already do that in a different way, that they
Mhm.
do consolidate a lot of freight. They come down there and it has worked out pretty well. And that
Thank you, Steve.
in the old days, we did have that containerized
Yeah.
Yeah.
operation. It was called Dolly Freight, and it became very problematic. And that's when the freight shed was actually served the purpose for which it is named, the freight shed in Toll. And
Yeah.
everyone would come down beginning at 4 o'clock in the morning with freight, and they put tickets there. And I've heard nightmares about that way. And the biggest improvement, although it's a 20th century improvement, grant you, not 21st century, was to have the freight consolidation taken offsite and given to what has now become Cape Cod Express. So people were told, if you have small amounts of freight,
Yeah.
ship it by Cape Cod Express.
Got
They
it.
think now is time for us to look at coming back and to the way things used to be, but with improvements, because now in the 21st century, we don't know whether there's sufficient space in the ports for that operation. When we discussed that, I've raised that with Justin Paulson of the New Bedford Port Authority in November. And I think he said specifically that the North Terminal 2 site would not have enough space for that type of operation.
I think you did too.
But that was one of the things that Ed suggested. And so I made it the RFP broader in order to be able to receive that type of proposal. And if we
Okay.
do get a proposal for containerized freight, we can consider that and assess its likelihood of success at that point.
All right. This is a question for you, Steve, and for Mark. Do you guys need a vote today on this proposal?
We would appreciate a vote. We can let the board know when we meet with them next week what the recommendation from the Port Council was.
All right. Port
John.
Council members, we have, well, go ahead, Joe.
John, yeah.
Yes.
Question, is anybody talking to Mr. Packer about using his facilities? I know Steve mentioned that.
We will be
Eliminate-
talking.
We only have two docking spaces. Has anybody talked to Ralph Packer about maybe having this done from his dock?
We will be talking to
Nice.
Ralph about that, definitely. Ralph was one of the people who did submit a proposal back in 1999.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Question for
Chairman.
the- Yes, sir.
Okay, no, just want to ask, I don't know who's going to be able to answer this question, Steve or Mark, maybe. I don't know if Mark was even, were you working here then, Mark, in 1998?
Yes, 96.
You were, all right, 96, all right. So did Seabulk, they must have got their boat fitted to fit our slips.
Yeah, they had
They
a
changed the
radius.
stern?
Yeah, they had a rounded radius, wooden deck, and I think the boat might have been also, they had the Minnesota too, I believe.
The Minnesota, I remember, that's the one I was trying to think of, yeah. There was a smoke screen going across the channel
But it
there.
did fit.
All right, so when we start talking about this container thing, I mean, that is just, I don't even know how that even gets brought up publicly. Like, it's insanity, okay? That's for places that are really far away from, I've always said this, the Glacier was very friendly for us. It sort of left us just about right for a 14-hour truck driver 10,000 years ago, okay? And you guys over there got it made, the vineyard. If I was over on the vineyard, my hair would be on fire with even any discussion about something like this because of your distance is so close. It's almost a bridge. You might as well just forget the whole terminal and just build a bridge and get off of this argument at some point. I think we'll all be dead, but I bet you that happens, okay? The Dolly Freight thing that Steve just brought up, Andrews and Pierce was the first company
Right.
in Nantucket
Yep.
that started, Cape Cod is a new thing, and theoretically Cape Cod Express is, but it was really interesting, Pierce, trippy. And there's, they used to put the wood for like carpenters on a pallet. And a guy would sign his name. The person's name would be signed by somebody in New Bedford. and they would just go down and pick it up. That's it. Now, I know that, we live in a different time now. It's kind of funny that we talk about going back to horses and thinking it's a modern idea. I just can't even believe it. But I mean, people are turning their heat on and off from New York, and their car starts in their garage from New York now. So I don't know about going back to containers. Wow. So the thing is that, when you make a commitment, when we bought those mud boats, they had to be fitted. They had to be completely changed to work for us. You just don't go buy a boat and say, here we go, we're going to run it to the vineyard. It just doesn't happen. When you go to the Caribbean, you go to these other islands, they have big ramps, and the boat backs up and they drop this ramp down and you can drive things on and off. But it's fitted to work in multiple places. So the way we're set up for our boats to work. So it's a very, very difficult conversation for me to have. If I was new and I just started 4 years ago with my new term, I would be asking a lot of weird questions, but I already know the answers to all this. So I hate to say it like that, but it's true. And I know we got to go through this process again. I'll say that word as well. I think we've done a lot, and this is something else, Steve, that's near and dear to your computer. C-Streak. Okay. 23 years ago, we didn't have C-Streak, did we? What did we have then? The Shamachi, did we bought that just for fun? That was great, wasn't it? So great idea. So
We aren't buying any boat this time, Nat.
yeah, well, I still look at how much money we wasted.
Correct. We aren't
during
wasting
this
any money.
last time.
We are not wasting any money this time. We're doing a C-Streak
Okay.
like operation, correct?
I'm just saying
All
that
right.
C-Streak is in our system now.
Yep, and
And
it's great.
we don't want to, and don't forget that system is here, and we've done something to remove vehicles, those one vehicle trips that go down, whatever, and there's less cars going to the vineyard. There's more parked there in the winter now. Things are changing. Okay, it's changed with us. Vehicles are all in people's yards now, year round.
And that,
So,
I
anyway.
appreciate the knowledge and
I know.
a lot of valid points.
Yeah.
And
I
Nat,
know we want to, I'm sorry,
May I-
Steve.
may I ask you a favor, Nat?
Yeah,
Because the board last fall voted to issue an RFP. And the staff has tried to do its best in developing an RFP that we felt the board could accept.
yeah.
Could you have your vote that way as to what type of RFP we should have come up with, given that vote of the board? And actually, on behalf of Rob Junior, give us a yes vote today?
I'm gonna be doing that, Steve.
All right.
Cooler heads will prevail, just so you know.
So, in that direction now, if we can try this, any last comments before we accept a motion? Seeing no final comments, anyone prepared to make a motion to approve this RFP? As
So
it
moved.
stands?
I would like to make a motion to approve the RFP with the
I'll
provision
second the
that
motion.
Fairhaven be excluded, be added to the list of excluded
excuse me.
ports.
All right,
As
thank you.
amended, I will second it.
All right, thank you. The Mark made the motion and Joe Solito seconded. Mark, could you just say that motion one more time?
I move to recommend the issuance of the RFP as presented with the provision that Fairhaven be added to the list of excluded ports.
Perfect.
Mr. Reese, can I suggest that we also make it subject to the other revisions that have been brought up today? There were a couple other things I think that Steve said.
Okay, somebody else
I
has to
see Steve's
identify.
eyebrows. Furrowed. I thought there was something else you were changing, but maybe my.
No, I'm sorry. I thought we'd already made those revisions.
Okay, I will,
I didn't hear any other revisions.
okay. If Steve, you're satisfied. then
Oh,
I'll-
no, the one to Rob that make it explicitly about options. That they can-
Correct, that's the one. yeah.
Right. Yep.
So
And I
I'll add that
seconded
to my
it.
motion that wording be changed to be explicit about options.
And I second the motion as amended.
All right, amended motion by Mark and Joe Solito seconded. Let's take a vote. Joe Solito,
Solito, yes.
Matt Lowell,
I with caution.
Mark Reese,
Yes,
and Cahill, yes. Steve, thank you so much. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Steve.
And that, I miss you a lot.
Steve, I do too. Do you still drive that zip car? Do you still drive the zip car, Steve?
Yeah, not as often, but I'm public
Uh,
transportation. So,
Oh, perfect. All
That's it.
right, Steve.
all right.
Take care, man. Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
help.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, on to the next agenda item. Hopefully will not be as long. The Mark, do we want to move right into the Woods Hole Terminal reconstruction? Is that the next place?
Business summary for the month of January.
Right, go for it.
Okay, Sean's gonna bring it up. The good thing about January, we don't have to do the year, it's just for the month.
Hmm.
Okay, so for the month of January, passengers on the Vineyard route were up about 2,500 or 3%. On the Nantucket route, virtually flat, up 10 passengers. And for the month of January combined, both routes were up 2.6%. Graphs comparing the passengers this year to last year. Okay, we have the, looking at the vehicles, we put the new format in with the passenger vehicles and trucks in the same category. So for the total vehicles on the Vineyard, we're down about 1,670 cars or 6.1%. On the Nantucket route, we're down 89 cars or 1.9%. Both routes combined, we're down 1,760 or 5.5%. Here's a graph showing the comparison. Here, the trucks larger than 20 feet broken out separately. On the Vineyard route, we're off 5.6%. On the Nantucket route, we're off 8.1%. Both routes combined, we're off 6.5% or 378 vehicles. And keep in mind, in the month of January, we did have some weather that caused some cancellations this year. And here's a graph showing the comparison 2021 versus 2022 for the larger trucks. Cars parked on the Vineyard route, we saw an increase of 12.8%. On the Nantucket route, we saw 25.5%. Both routes combined, 14.5% or 426 cars. And here's a comparison of 2020 versus 2021. Trip summary report, we had budgeted originally for both routes combined, just under 1,600 trips. We had 5 available trips that we ran. We had 90 trips canceled for weather, 75 for traffic demands, had 3 unscheduled trips operating for a total of 1,441 for the month of January. Financial snapshot for the month of January. We had operating revenue of $4,752,000, which was lower than budget by just under $120,000. Other income of just under $52,000 was higher by budget by just under $10,000. Operating expenses of $8,685,000, which was lower than budget by $674,000. And total operating loss for the month of January was $4,067,000, which was lower than budget by $566,000. Operating revenues for the month of January. Here's a breakdown where we're off just under 120,000 at 2.5%. And then you can see the total operating revenues were down 110,000 or 2.2%. Here's a breakdown of the graph showing where all the revenue is coming from for the month of January. Operating expenses were down 673,000. You're looking at, we had healthcare costs were down, that's the primary driver in the general expense of 341,000. Maintenance expense down 212, and some of that's timing on the land side. And total for the month, we're down 676,000. That's a breakdown of the operating expenses. We did see, believe it or not, in January, fuel expense was down for the month. That was because of the lower than budgeted trips for the month, but we don't expect the fuel expense to be down for the other months going forward. One up to take this head on is that we are hedged for all of 2022. We have an exposure of about 164,000 gallons, which 56 of those gallons are in the months of January, February. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the January numbers.
Questions, anyone? Seeing none, let's go forward.
Okay, so
Thank you,
updates on
Mark.
current, you're welcome. Updates on current projects. Bill Cloutier could not be here today, but Joe Levesque, who is also one of the project managers on the project, will go over that.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
So this first slide here is the Cashman crew driving the sheets on the east side of the monopile 24 cofferdam. What we have here is a picture of the water line in slip 1. This is the cabinet on the land side of the project. There's a check valve in this picture that we're doing a test on, a pressure test. This is a gauge showing the pressure test reading for that check valve, and it's shown at 125 psi. This is a view looking south. We have the south pier on our left. We have monopile 22 in the foreground, then monopile 23 and 24. Which has the cofferdam with its two sister 42-inch monopiles, and we have the contractor's barge in the background. This is an aerial view pretty much of the same area. You can see the construction ongoing for the monopile 24 cofferdam. This is a view of the south pier looking north. It's just a picture of the pier. So the waterside contract cost update, the original contract price, $43,143,280. Change orders to date, $16,122,346. Change orders as percentage of original contract, 37%, which brings our total contract price to $59,265,626. We are now over the original estimate to date, $5,575,726 over the original cost, the original estimate of $53,689,900.
With that, Joe and myself will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I just have one question, is how close are we to completion?
So we're looking at wrapping up at the end of this month. So we're wrapping up the monopile 24 cofferdam closure. We have concrete pours scheduled for the end of this week, early next week, and then we'll put the platform on top of that. And then they just have some minor punch list items to wrap up. So they're looking to demobilize by the end of the month.
All right. Gentlemen, any other questions?
Great. Is that little box heated where the water is?
It is. Yeah, there's that whole line has a heat trace and insulation around it.
I know we got global warming, but it's still gonna freeze, so I had to ask, just for my own
I think there's a
knowledge.
Nest thermostat on that.
Oh, I'm sure there is. We're gonna do it. Yeah, and when it breaks, you're supposed to fix it as fast as it broke. Like poof, it just gets fixed.
It's and it's on your iPhone. You can just use it as an app.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Great.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay. Next up, we have the website update with Sean will be who's the project lead on this, and will be giving us the update.
Well, good transition on the technology front, John. Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So just a brief update on where we are on the website and app development project. ADK Group and the Steamship Authority have concluded the discovery phase of the project, and activities during that phase included mapping the current and ideal states of our web platform, investigating our technological ecosystem, and looking for gaps, opportunities, and pain points there, and then to begin to create the vision for the new experience of the website and app. So we've now officially started the focused innovation phase, when ADK will start to create the sort of foundational design and user experience for the website, and then start rapid prototyping of those elements. We're working on developing our public engagement for this phase. We have quite a robust list of people from the survey we did about a year ago, of people who said they were interested in being part of the beta testing. So we're going to start to reach out to them in the near future. We have launched a new version of the e-news, and there's a landing page up at steamshipauthority.com/website project with updates. And also in your packet was a monthly sprint report summary from ADK with summary of workshops and presentations that they've done and the current status of the project. And we expect to have a quarterly presentation by them next month, would be my anticipation. So happy to take any questions.
Gentlemen, any questions for Sean? All right, seeing none. I think, Sean, you got off easy today.
I'll take it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so next up, we have updates on the Allen Home, Iano, and Nantucket Drawdock. Mark Munson will be handling this.
Hey, Mark.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Island Home first. Island Home first.
Yes, it's
Okay, thank you.
so we have the Island Home is finishing up her dry dock. We anticipate at Senesco Shipyard in North Kingston, Rhode Island. She anticipates she'll be back the end of the week and to repair a facility in Fairhaven and go back on the run at the end of March 29th. There's a picture before undocking of the polishing of the propeller to Rupert B. Roughness. Next slide, please. And this is one of the focuses on the dry dock is we've done extensive work on the bow and stern doors. These are new slides, and they go in on each bottom area of the door. Next slide. Just finishing up getting the rudders back in place. You see the underwater coatings are complete. Next, so the highlights of the docking, bow and stern thruster overhauls, bow and stern door overhauls, MES door modifications, blasting coating of the hull, and overhaul of the rudder assemblies. Financial snapshot, the contract at 1.36 million. We've had credits of 324,000, change orders of 288,000, and right now we have a 1.32 million delivery price. And any questions on Island Home?
Gentlemen,
Mark, can I just ask you a quick question, Mark?
Sure.
What are we doing to improve I don't know what to say about it, the sliding, the lubrication of those doors that when they open, I remember when the boat was new and I saw that, and the same thing happens on the Woods Hole. I mean,
we have
greased wheels with bearings versus a sort of a metal on metal type thing. I mean, it's kind of like it ain't a perfect solution. So I'm just curious, are we doing anything with like maybe nylon or something like, those fifth wheel pads they have now for trucks? You've probably seen those. Just curious if they're doing anything different.
Well, these are roller bearings that go into the guides. And we've completely overhauled them, all new bronze bushings, all new greasing, top and bottom. We spent in excess of $300,000 in the overhaul of the doors. And I think they'll be very suitable. It's kind of a midlife period for the doors. So I think this is going to prove to be very successful for us.
Because to add, Mr. Chairman, this is another, unfortunately, you guys weren't here when this was going on. The Eagle was gonna have doors like this, and it kind of got kiboshed during, I don't even remember why that happened. It was something to do with the midlife lack of contract. I don't even remember why we didn't do it, to be honest. But a door that opens sideways is a lot better than a hydraulic door when it breaks. At least you can still get the door open somehow. So I'm just thinking about the future boats and any refitting that would happen, Mark, that type door would be sort of a, I don't know, a prototype situation. Because the only boat that ever had that was the Islander, I believe, in the old days. So we have two boats that have these now, and it's probably not going to be the last. So that's why I'm bringing it up.
I personally like these doors quite a bit. They're very simple. The roller bearings, as long as you do your preventive maintenance, they will prove to be a very successful door.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mark. Do we go on to the
Okay,
next vote?
up we have the the INO.
Yep.
So we've done, the INO is back in Fairhaven at our maintenance facility right now. We're placing the new engine and gearbox into it with anticipation of finishing the end of the month and back into service. This is kind of a mid-period. We've done extensive work in the coatings. We've completely taken the exterior coating systems down with glass bead blasting, and you can see this is a finished product prior to undocking. Next slide. This is, we've overhauled all 4 jet engines, ready for good service this year. Next. This is a picture of the new, the buckets post painting. Next. And we've gone through, we've even blasted and coated underneath the pontoon areas. Next. So the highlights of the docking, extensive coating renewals, overhaul of the jet drive engines. We've completely recarpeted both levels in the passenger areas. And also we've put in all the tray tables in anticipation of strong season. That was for Matt. Next. Okay, the financial picture, the contract was $566,000. We've had $36,500 in credits. In change orders, $125,000, and we got into the all 4 jet drives, and that was the big driver as far as for change orders. And grand total contract credits and change orders, $655,000. And that's it. Any questions?
Let's move on. Next one.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I thought there was another boat. No? All right.
No,
Thanks, Mark.
Actually, the Nantucket has just arrived into Ames Shipyard into London, and you'll be seeing that in the next Port Council meeting.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, next up would be the proposed winter and spring operating schedules.
Yep.
And Allison Fletcher will be joining up on the stage.
Good morning, Allison.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
And this is for informational purposes. So what we'll do after the meetings is we'll post this to the website for public comments and advertise them as well. Thank you, Sean. Don't want to forget the advertising. So Sean's going to bring up the operating schedules so we can talk about each one. There'll be 2 for the Vineyard, 2 for Nantucket Run real quick, and there are no major changes for either schedule. The proposed operating schedules from January 3rd to March 27th for both runs would start 2 days earlier and end 2 days earlier than in 2022. The proposed offering schedules for the period of March 28th through May 17th would start 2 days earlier, but end 1 day later on than 2022 for both routes. So here's the operating schedule for January 3rd through March 27th. On the Vineyard route, be similar boats that are currently operating right now with the Martha's Vineyard, the Island Home, and the Katama. The Nantucket will replace the Island Home during the repair period, which for next year is scheduled to be January 9th through February 22nd. We're not making any changes to the quantity of trips, the times, or the crewing of the vessels. All the vessels would be triple crewed, meaning they could run up to 7 round trips per day, every day of the operating week. And then the earliest, so that's where we have this schedule here. For the following schedule, it's the same schedule and crewing that are signed for 2022. The one minor change on this proposed schedule is that for the last 3 days of the schedule, the MV Martha's Vineyard is scheduled to go into the spruce up period in the spring, which we do annually, and will be replaced by the MV Nantucket from May 15th through May 17th. Other than that, again, it's the same time, same crewing, same vessels as in 2022. On the Nantucket schedule, similar theme. We're looking at no changes to the quantity of trips or the times or the trip designations. The major change to the schedule will be just when the Eagle is off of the run during repair period, which would be from January 3rd to January 8th. The MV Nantucket will replace the Eagle, and the MV Woods will replace the Gayhead. So then from January 9th to the end of the schedule, you would have the Eagle and Gayhead both triple crewed, running up to 3 trips per day. And then on for the period of March 28th through May 17th, same schedule as we are scheduled to operate this year, with the Eagle, Gayhead, and Sankaty all being triple crewed, where they each run 3 trips a day. And this is for informational purposes, so we're going to advertise and put this on the website for comment, and then we will come back to the Port Council Board for approval later on.
Any comments, anyone?
No.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Nat.
yes, real quick, just a couple little typo-y things here, I think. Allison, Mark, on the 328 to 517, you gotta fix the Monday through Friday 6:30 Sankaty needs to be hazardous. Just the 6:30. It has been for a while. It makes it so that we can, shift some trucks that are on the 545 over to that boat so that there's less, we can ever get everyone on the same page.
Okay.
So that more multi-stops, even though I know that's early in the year, but at least they get that ability to at least, get over early when for the time of year that they can. And then the other thing is, and we just had it happen this past weekend after, and I know you guys look at this, it's very difficult to know how busy it's going to be on a Sunday night coming home. Especially after a vacation, or a long weekend situation. It's so we don't have we have the boat crewed on Sunday. I'm talking about the Gayhead now. Sorry. Yep. I'm assuming that everyone knows what I'm talking about. I mean the Gayhead on Sunday. And I never know what the right thing is. It's like we've been talking about this since we triple crewed 6 or 7 years ago now, whenever it was. Opening that up to cars, booking it, and then the Eagle has space, and then they get upset at the dock because the boat's running and it's not full, and it's like, what is the answer? Like I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that the boat is at least crewed, and I just don't know what the answer is to Sundays. for
I
coming
agree,
home.
Matt, that 4:30 trip is more attractive, especially being a parent, that getting home back to the island at 6:45 is much better than 10:15 after a vacation. So
Boy,
that's
it
something
sure
that-
is, Mark. And that's the crumb problem we have. It's nice when it runs, but if it's not open to booking at a certain time, I just don't know what the answer is, but at least it's crewed and we can continue to sort of monitor it. And that's good. And I appreciate you being able to flip those boats. Can't have the Nantucket and the Gayhead anymore. Can't do it. There's no room for cover for us to have that happen anymore. So we appreciate all the effort it takes to flip those boats around like that. It isn't easy to do. So
Next year's school
Thank you.
vacation, we'll make sure that we mark that as well as the 3-day weekends.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Allison?
Nope.
All right. Thanks, Allison.
Good job.
Thanks, Allison.
I was taking notice.
Yeah, you don't need a vote. This is for information, right?
That's informational
right.
purposes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Oh,
So now we're moving down to the org chart.
So at last month's board meeting, the board asked us to look at this and involve the port council to get their feedback. Mr. Keneally will be showing a proposed or potential changes to the org chart and go over some of the history of it.
Do you want the PowerPoint now or?
Hey, Terrence.
Morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good.
Good morning.
Okay, so as Mark was mentioning at the last board meeting in February, there was some discussions about the board, and Ms. Tierney, the chairwoman, asked us to put together a report specifically with respect to the issue of whether or not we need to add a chief operating officer as recommended in the HMS report that came out in December of 2018. Following that discussion at the board meeting, staff was tasked with that. Myself, Mr. Rosem, Janice Kennefick, Mr. Davis, and as well as Steve Sayers all participated in an internal discussion about the current organizational chart and any potential changes to it. And we came up with a few suggestions that we want to run by the Port Council as requested by the board. Just to give a reminder, because as I look at the panel here today, and I know a number of you weren't here back in 2018, and I know Nat remembers it well. Just to give you a timeline, so what ended up happening was we ended up retaining HMS in the spring of 2018. They came in, they did a 6-month review in December of 2018. I'm sorry, that review focused on 5 essential elements of the Steamship Authority's operation. And I have to take my glasses off because I can't read my writing. But anyway, so those 5 aspects of the organization were the vessel operations, the fleet maintenance, management structure, informational technology systems, and public communications. And that initial report from HMS made 10 recommendations, and this is the report that was dated in December of 2018. And again, they recommended that we adopt the safety management system, that we adopt a quality management system, that we adopt a learning management system, that we establish a mission statement and objectives, that we establish a strategic plan, that we increase engineering resources, that we employ a health, safety, quality, environmental manager, that we employ a director of marine operations and chief operating officer, that we recruit external job applicants, and that we develop individual performance objectives. And I'm pleased to report that of those 10, the only ones that we haven't addressed yet, and we plan on doing that, is the strategic plan and also the chief operating officer position is under review. And then out of the strategic plan where we develop the individual performance objectives. And that was an essential component of that. So since we haven't done the strategic planning, we obviously haven't done the performance objectives. So following that report, the initial report, the public communications aspect was left out. And there was a bit of a delay in getting that report. And then in February of 2019, we had another board meeting and we reviewed the supplemental report from HMS. And I've tried to condense it. There was, in my opinion, there was four, I'm trying to get the right wording, four general observation solutions is what the language is in the report. And what they asked for was develop a crisis communication plan, review the signage at the terminals and develop a long-term plan, employ a mobile application and reservation system, as well as develop a real-time text and email messaging system. And I'm pleased to report through the efforts of the staff, we've developed a crisis communication plan. We're continuing to review our signage at the terminals and improving those. As Sean mentioned earlier, we're working on the with ADK, the reservation, the updates to the website, the mobile application, the reservation system. And following that report, we ended up improving our previous system for texting and emailing messaging to our customers. And Sean mentioned the e-news and everybody gets their alerts and so forth. So that's also been crossed off the list to some degree, but that's an ongoing thing. We're always looking to improve our communications with our traveling public. So also at that February 2019 meeting, staff recommended and the board approved the additions of the health, safety, quality, and environmental protection manager, as well as the director of marine operations. And those are positions that you folks know that are filled by Angela and Mark Amundsen. And then following that, once we brought Mark on board in, I think April of 2019, I think it was, we had a full court press, if you will, to find good quality engineering staff to come in and help Mark take a look at our vessels. And I think you folks have seen the results of that effort and the better communication that we have with respect to what we're doing in shipyards and the conditions of the vessels and so forth. And then one of the other things that we're looking at in the marine operations side of things was, how the port captain, the assistant port captain would work with the director of marine operations. And we decided to keep the assistant port captain position during that review. And in June of 2019, I believe it was the 5th of June, as well as the 8th of June, we had workshop meetings with Mr. Sainsbury from HMS. And it was a long meeting. The June 5th meeting was extremely long, actually. I remember it fondly. We went through each of the recommendations. We came up with different solutions. And then again, we ended up implementing, as I mentioned earlier, implementing quite a bit of those. Then out of that discussion and out of those discussions, we put off the addition of a chief operating officer because we wanted to give the folks that we were bringing in the opportunity to get familiar with the operations, identify things that they thought needed to be improved. And again, this is also consistent with the recommendation that we hire external people. So the reason you hire external people is that they bring in new ideas, new approaches. And so all of that was taking place. And again, this meeting in June 2019 was smack in the middle of the year. And again, that's when we went and hired a lot of engineering staff by the end of the year. Fast forwarding a little bit, we all know what happened in March of 2020. So about 6 to 8 months after, probably 8 months after COVID hit, after this June 2019 meeting, and we had to pivot. We had to pivot our operations to address those concerns. We had a number of layoffs. We had direct impacts, as everybody understood and knows, especially the folks on the island. We had to cut back on service and so forth. And we managed through that through 2020. And we were hoping in 2021, in June, when the vaccines became available, that we'd be beyond that. And we slowly started to open up things last summer. But then unfortunately, again, with the rise of the Omicron variant and so forth in the fall, late 2021, we have to deal with those issues. So we really haven't got out behind this COVID impact on our business. Even though last year we had a good result in terms of the bottom line. Again, that's just a credit to the folks that we brought in, as well as Mark and his team, and looking at the accounting in the bottom line. So recently, there's been some inquiries from folks as to what we're doing about this chief operating officer position. And frankly, it's a little bit out of left field, but in any event,
Right field.
well, we had to, the board asked us to take a look at it. And so I was tasked, along with my colleagues, to go back and revisit all these things.
Where'd Mr. Reese go?
Did Mark leave us? Just hold on for 1 second.
Yeah, he's not on, so. we'll
I don't have his cell. Do you know if we can reach him to see if he's coming back?
Yeah, I saw an individual walk into his office there, and
That was Joe.
oh, that was Joe, excuse me.
Joe's still here. It was Mark Reese that
That's
dropped
why I should
off.
put my glasses back on, John.
Oh, you're doing great there, Terrence. No worries. We do need the vote on this, right?
Yes, sir.
Let me see if he's on the other side.
I'm back. I just had to do something.
Now, we're looking for Mark Reese. We knew you'd be back, Joe.
Can someone
I
check
don't-
Monica? They have.
I just texted her.
I don't see him on the attendee side.
Monica, if you're listening, can you send me Mark Reese's cell phone, please?
Terrence, question for you.
Yeah.
This COO job, what's the compensation?
Let me just see if Sean got a quorum back.
Thanks.
I'll be happy to answer your question, John. I just want to make sure that we got a quorum going. What the level comes.
I apologize for going dark there for a minute. I'm at work and I had to just answer a couple of questions.
Or did you have to leave? Okay, can I give you the phone number? We don't have a quorum if you don't come back in. So can I text you the phone number so you can dial in that way? All right, bye.
I thought that once you have a quorum, you're all set. No,
He lost it. Give me 1 second here.
Sean?
I talked to him, I texted him, he needs to call in, so. I'm just
Okay.
waiting for him to show up.
Apologize about the delay, everyone. All right, since we only have 5 positions right now, I'm going to take the position that 3 out of the 5 is a quorum, so we can move forward.
Okay.
All right,
I'd agree with that too.
thanks, Joe. Just hit me in the head, but like a piece of wood. But anyway, all right, so let's move on. So Sean, could you do me a favor? So let me just answer John's question first. So
Hang on, this is-
there he is. Okay, great. That must be him.
Mark Reese, is that you?
Yeah, I'm back on. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, so to answer John's question before you cut out was, what's the compensation level for this particular chief operating officer position? It would be on the same level as the general counsel and the treasurer's compensation, John, at the current wage scales that we have. So with benefits and so forth, it approaches the $200,000 per year cost to the authority for that particular position. And again, it would be at the same grade level as myself and Mark. And that is, it'll be more illustrative if I show you the chart that we have.
You'll have to describe it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll describe it for Mark as he's on the phone. So there's a little bit of a tease there. There it is there. So what we're showing here is the current management structure, Mark. At the top, we have the general manager, the general counsel, and the treasurer are at the top, right below that level. Reporting to myself are the director of security, as well as the SQE manager, which is the health and safety manager. Reporting to Mark is the assistant treasurer, our accounting manager, our internal audit manager, our payroll manager, and procurement officer. And then the other direct reports to Mr. Davis right now are the director of information systems, or MIS. Sean is our communications director. Janice Kennebeck, our director of human resources. Our project managers, Joe Lebeck and Bill Cloutier. Mark Amundson, our director of marine operations. And then Allison Fletcher, our director of shoreside operations. And then, as you can see at the bottom of the chart there, the number of departments or individuals who report to those folks at the lower level of the structure. And so, Sean, could you go to the next slide? So what we're showing here is where the chief operating officer would slide into the management structure. Again, we put that position right there in the middle just due to spacing issues, but essentially that would be on the same level as the general counsel and the treasurer. And so then we would branch off from the chief operating officer. The director of marine operations would report directly to that individual. The director of engineering would report to that individual. And right now, actually, Mark Amundson is performing that role as well as director of marine operations because we haven't filled that role yet. And then the director of shoreside operations, Allison, would also report directly to the chief operating officer. And then in the upper, on the right-hand side of that, we would have our operations and communications center manager, Joe Russos. He'd be reporting to that individual directly as well. And then fleet administration, which is the folks who conduct the personnel for our vessel operations, would slot in under Joe there. So all the core operating departments would be then reporting to that individual. And again, you can see where the port captains, the assistant port captains, the engineers, the facilities managers, and the terminal managers and so forth all slot in underneath there. And then on the left-hand side, the support services, if you will, the IT, the communications, the human resources, and the project managers would all continue to report to Bob directly. And so that's what we came up with the other day.
And then in the upper right-hand corner, under the word draft there in a green box, you'll see in addition to the accounting staff that says grants administrator, grants administration, excuse me. And so one of the other things that came out of our review of the organizational chart was the need for an individual to come in and source and research and obtain grants for the authority, and Mark can take that.
Yeah, so this person would not only be researching and applying for grants, but then they'd be responsible for administrating the grants that we have, as well as making sure that any reporting stuff that we have to do, like for NTD, which was indirectly responsible, directly responsible for the CARES Act funds, to make sure that all that monthly, quarterly, annual reporting is done as well.
Yeah, and that individual, again, they're situated correctly here on the chart, where they would come in at the same, around the same levels as the individuals that are there. Again, we're still looking at the grades for those folks, but essentially they would come in line with those folks. Again, grants being a very important aspect of the authority right now with the available grant monies from the federal and state governments, so. Yes, sir, I'm done with that, thank you. So that's what we've come up with, and what we're looking for today from the Port Council, as requested by the board, is your feedback and any thoughts and comments that you might have, and ultimately we'd like to get your recommendation as to whether we should move forward with these two positions. Again, those positions being the Chief Operating Officer and the Grants Administration individual. And I'll open the floor to, I'll defer to John, or what do you want to do, John?
Yeah.
Well, let's just open the floor to discussions, gentlemen.
I would say, as far as the grant, Joe said, as far as the grants go, there's no question about that. I think we need somebody to be doing grants and trying to find out where you can get some of these governmental, some of the governmental money for. As to the Chief Operating Officer, I think I would probably leave that up to the Board of Governors to make their decision on that. At least that's my opinion on that, to research it and come up with whether they think we need one or not. Not up to the legislature.
And then today, I understand, Joe, but question for Terrence. You're asking for us to give our opinion to the board today, yes?
Yes, sir. We'd like to take your recommendations back to the board, which it's a week from today, I believe, yeah.
Yeah. Nat, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just, I look at this, sort of that speech you just gave, Terry, should have been given to Dylan and Julian if we had the opportunity. I had to say that because it's true. You really did a good timeline.
You did.
And you know, 2018 was a long time ago if you think about COVID. But the improvements that we've made would have happened without HMS. But that's water under the bridge now. And I think that moving forward with this, you know, sort of organizational adjustment that you've already kind of made a lot of already, if it could be done in the best interest of the steamship and how the place needs to run with internal, knowledgeable, experienced people in that new term that we have now, what is it called? Planned replacement, but that was another new term. I just had it earlier and I forgot it. Should have wrote it down. What is that new fluffy term for replacing somebody now? They just came up with that. That's new. I forgot what it is. Planned, now there's another one. I can't remember it, but there's so many new words now. It's like a whole new planet. So, you know, I agree with, you know, Joe's point about the board, but I think it really is, it's coming from management. And I think that management has the right terms to figure this all out. Succession plan, there you go. There's the term. There it is. That's the new 2021 second half of the year, new term. But, you know, again, as long as it doesn't affect our bottom line too much and we get people, you know, more baked into the operation. As I've said before, both islands are completely opposite of the operations are completely different. Same company, completely different operations. And that is probably the biggest issue that faces anyone that comes to work here, is that one issue, how different the islands are because of the way that each terminal operates depending upon where they are. So I would move, cautiously forward with this. The grant thing, Mark, don't we have, is this getting put into somebody else's department that's already doing some of this? Is this going to be a new person completely, or is this going to be sort of a team effort adding something?
It would be a new person completely, that would be their responsibility to making sure that we apply for the grants, and then just as importantly, that we administrate the grants correctly.
Okay, because that's a big one. I agree with Joe on that. This is something we talked about a long time ago, and being a non-subsidized company of this size and the amount of different things that we can get money for certain projects, whether especially dock work and stuff, is going to keep this operation running the way it's been. That's going to help us a lot. So that position, I could make the case, is probably more important than anything else, but we're not supposed to say that. So tie it together, figure it out. Thank you.
Mark Reese, do you have any questions or comments you want to make?
Just two comments. One, I'm supportive of the operations manager based on the recommendation of management. I just would like to say that I hope that that's the result of their desire to move forward with it, and not because of the proposed legislation. I don't think the legislature should be micromanaging the steamship authority by putting together those type of special acts. So, but put that as a side, I'm very supportive of that. In terms of the grants administrator, I'm also supportive of that. I would just like to add that may be partially paid for or fully paid for through ARPA funds. ARPA provides for the hiring of grant managers to assist communities and expending ARPA funds. So I would hope management would look into that as a possible funding or partial funding for the position.
All good points, Mark and Joe and Nat. Thank you so much. The only comment I want to make is that while I'm in favor of both positions, I think the word on the street that I'm hearing from our state friends is that they're making some of these proposals based on 2018. And, I want to take the moment just to thank Steamship Authority for getting this through 2018, 19, 20, 21, COVID on top of that, with the crew that you already had in place, because it's a whole new world than it was in 2018. So it leads one to question what is the real motivation of this current talk up at the State House, because we've made great improvements, and 2018 was 4 years ago. So having said that, can we get a motion to approve this?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All right. Take a vote. Joe Solito,
Aye.
Matt Lowell,
Aye.
Mark Reese,
Aye.
and John Cahill, aye. Is
Thank
that
you.
it? We got treasurer's report.
No treasurer's report, sorry to disappoint.
I don't think you're disappointing today.
Not today.
All the new business, is there anything not anticipated by the chair?
One thing I'd like to add, this is Mark Reese. I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to take a tour of the Fairhaven facility, as well as to participate in or observe a sea trial of one of the ferry boats. And I just want to report that I came away very impressed with the professionalism and the dedication and positive morale of the employees I interacted with. It was a great opportunity for me to see firsthand the operations, and I came back very impressed and very appreciative of the work that our people are doing out there.
Thank you, Mark. Any other old or new business? Seeing none,
Speaking
how
about
about,
that,
yes, go
John,
ahead.
before we go, speaking about that, would there be any opportunity, Mark, say for John and I or Jim, to go tour the facilities at Fairhaven at some point in time?
Mark shaking his head yes, so that's a yes.
Sure. And I'd be glad to host the group to come out here and be glad to show you Fairhaven.
Thank
That'd be
you.
great. All right, any public comment? Any questions from the public?
Yes,
I'm sorry?
yes, Mr. Salzberg.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Rich. How are you?
Hey, pretty good. I had a question for Mr. Keneally and a question for Mr. Munson, if you'd so entertain it.
Let's take Munson first.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you move there, Terrence.
That's okay, don't worry about it.
Good morning again.
Hey, good morning, sir. A quick question: has the electrical is the anode work that was taking place at the Vineyard Haven terminal wrapped up? And if so, did your divers find any problems with the metal there? Did the anodes fail to do their job, or was this just a repair of the anodes or replacement of the anodes?
This is just a standard replacement of the anodes. The anodes are sacrificial to protecting the steel. Yes, there's a timed element on there and it has to do with the surface area of the steel. So everything is going as planned.
Is that wrapped up, sir?
They're in the final aspect of it. I don't know if they're 100% complete, but they're near complete.
Sure. And as long as you're available, sir, can you speak to what exactly went wrong with the door of the Woods Hole this morning?
Yeah, we had a sensor right now where we identified a sensor, and when the door comes to a closed position or even an open position, the sensor, it's a proximity switch of showing the position of the door, wherein currently we're replacing that sensor.
Oh, fair enough. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. All right, Rich. Terrence is here. How about your question for Terrence?
Good morning. Just a quick question regarding the HMS report, because I figure you know it pretty thoroughly. It's obvious that the COO position is contemplated in that report. Is there any part of that report that contemplates board term limits, or do you see or could be construed as contemplating board term limits?
No, I don't see that in there, Rich.
Okey-doke.
And if you go back and look at the COO position, for example, I just want to add that, you know, our minutes from 2019 or from June of 2019 really flesh out what the discussion was, and it was somewhat parked at that time because of all the additions that we're making. And again, it wasn't from, we were in the midst of doing this work and adding these folks, and that we didn't get to that position because, again, by the time COVID hit, COVID was a game changer, as everybody knows. So, you know, now one other thing I would add is that, you know, typically earlier I mentioned it was out of left field because typically issues like this are brought to either members of the Port Council or members of the board, and then they're brought to staff or vice versa. And again, that's why we weren't consulted at all about this, as far as I know. So that's why I mentioned that earlier. So I'll leave it at that.
Understood. Understood and appreciated. Thank you very much.
Rich, any other questions?
All good. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you, Rich. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Before I do so, are we okay for an adjournment, Mark?
Yep, we're good.
All right, motion to adjourn. Joe Salito said yes. A second?
Second.
All right. Okay, roll call vote. Joe Salito,
Yes, I.
Matt Lowell,
Aye.
and Mark Race.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody. John Cahill, aye. See you in a month.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank